Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our Cardinal pop-up card. I've got a very special card for you today. We've never done anything exactly like this before, so it's going to be exciting and new, a nice new challenge for everyone. And as usual, we're going to begin by just doing some simple paper piecing to get some things ready to go. And I'm going to go through everything here step by step. Okay, so let's start off by simply assembling our little cardinals here. And there's quite a few pieces to this, but everything has a place and everything will go together beautifully. Okay, so let's get all the pieces for the cardinal. Okay, I have a couple duplicates there. We've got beaks, we've got feet, we've got eyes, and I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so we have two cardinals, obviously, and the one on the left, the wings have three little visible feathers. This one has kind of like two, so that's going to go there. Okay, then this larger piece here is going to go there along with this. These two are going to go here, and you can see where the feet match up. Okay, and then we have a series of beaks, and we'll show you how that goes together here in just a moment. But let's start off with the cardinal on the right. I'm going to take the wings here and just start getting those in place. Now, wherever possible, I did take my time and inked the various sections just to kind of give them a little added dimension. Okay, so that's going to go right there. You're going to match that up with the little tail feather. And you can see how inking helps kind of create that beautiful dimension. Okay, next we're going to take this white layer, and you can see where this goes. It's going to go right here, like so. Okay, and that's going to give us the whites of the eyes before we put the black section down. So let's get that in place, nice and easy on the glue there. Don't need a ton. And just match that up with the existing shadow element, like so. Let me scoot up a little bit here so you can see what I'm doing a little better. Okay, and if you have a little pick-me-up tool, it may be handy for our little cardinals here, as a lot of these pieces are pretty delicate. Okay, next we've got the little eyeball feature, and I'm actually just going to hold this with my hand, and that's going to go right on top of the white. And we're actually going to draw in his little eyeball. Since it's such a small little piece, didn't want to deal with it, we're just going to grab a little marker and fill that in just a moment. I'll show you how to do that. You're basically just making a circle within the circle, so not a big deal. Okay, let's grab his little toes and his feet, and just a few little dots will do. And then if you happen to maybe put too much on there, just dab that with your finger and match that up with the shadow element there. And they're sort of kind of free-flowing because they're joined together at such a very small little area that you may need to nudge the left or right foot a little bit to get it to align correctly. And that's okay. That's by design, or not by design. It's just, that's what happens. Okay. And we have four pieces for the beak. One sort of looks like, almost looks like the state of Tennessee, if I had to describe it. It's got a, almost like a rectangle with a little point, and the other two look more or less like little pizza slices, I guess you could say. Okay, so you want the points pointing the same direction, and in doing that, you'll find that you're basically creating little beaks. Okay, the smaller beak is going to go on the cardinal on the left. We're working on the one on the right, so we're going to grab this one here, the one that looks more like a pizza slice. That's going to be the top part of his beak. Now initially we had this joined, but it was too fragile. The line in the middle there was a little too fragile. You'll also notice that there are little indicators on the black piece to help you with the positioning of each of these. So just take a look before you apply your glue and commit, just to make sure that you're doing it right. Okay. And that is what it should look like. The 2 points should almost meet right at the very tip. Okay, so that looks beautiful. And we'll do the same thing. He's done, minus the eyeball, obviously. So what I would do is grab like a fine point pen, preferably black. If you don't have that, a pencil would even work. You could do it with a pencil. It may not be as deep of a color, but I'm going to go with the pencil here and just kind of start in the middle and just start making a little circle in the middle, and then work your way out, and then stop here and there until you have it the size that looks appropriate. I'd say about halfway. Okay, there you go. And I might darken that in with a little marker. We'll see. All right, left cardinal now. Same thing, we'll start off with the wings. Get the biggest piece out of the way first. Okay, and just as we did, going to match that up with the top little feather there. Make sure that it matches the contour of the actual bird. And you can hear the rain out there. Finally getting some rain. It's been so dry out here that people's wells are drying out. That's scary. Okay. Next, we're going to go with this white piece, and you can see where that goes, just like that. Let me grab my little pick-me-up tool so you can see it a little bit better. So of the 3 cards in this bundle, I think that this is the one that will probably be least mass-produced, just because of how involved it is. But it's definitely a one-of-a-kind, and whoever the lucky recipient is will really appreciate the artistry and the interactiveness, I guess if that's even a word, of this piece. Okay, so let's match that up. Try to hide that white around the perimeter. There we go, beautiful. And take a look at that again. Yep, looks good. And I'm going to start with the little pizza pie shaped part of the beak. A little too much glue on there, that's okay. And again, there's a little marker on the bottom left where the bottom left of the little beak is going to go. And of course you want that to match up with the tip on the black. Okay, and let's grab the other little piece and pop that in place using that little marker as well. And voila. If you need to give that a little bit of a nudge, that's fine. There we go. And let's get his little feet in place as well. Just a few little dots of glue will do. And just match that up with the shadow element that's already there on our beautiful bird. Okay, and there is our other cardinal. Let's help him see. Yeah, and a pencil might be, like I said, it might be a little, it might not be dark enough, but you get the idea there. Probably fill that in with a darker marker. I'm going to put this under my mat, let that dry flat while we move on here and begin putting together some of the other elements. Okay, let's take a look at the little Christmas tree that we feature on the front of the card. Let's get that put together, as that is somewhat involved as far as paper piecing goes. It's not hard. Okay, we're going to start off with this piece here. Okay, and on top of that we'll go this green piece, and then we're going to put this right here. This is going to fit in like a little puzzle. So let's start off with the main part of the tree, the bulk of our fir tree, or evergreen, whatever it is. Okay, and get that right onto the base. Make sure you match that up as accurately as you can. And I strategically inked this because we have some little snowy overlays that are going to go on this. So I inked where the snowy overlays do not show or won't be present, just to kind of give it a little, you can see how it's a little bit darker green around the outside. So depending on the shade of green that you choose for your tree, you're going to find an ink pad that is a tone or two darker. Okay, so let's get this brown part in place. You want to match that up with the shadow layer on the bottom there, and then it should also pretty much meet right at the base of the tree. Make sure that you have that aligned correctly. There we go. That looks good. And then we have this little snow drift that's going to go right on the bottom there over the brown. So let's get that in place. This is going to go on a little band on the front that contains the sentiment. Okay, just match that up nicely. Nice and pretty, nice and dimensional. Okay, there we go. And let's start working on the overlays for the tree. I'm going to start with the star and pop that in place. Whoops. This is where the pick-me-up tool really comes in handy for small little pieces like this. There we go. Okay, next we're going to find this odd little shaped guy. And for the snow drift, or for these snow, little patches of snow that are going on the tree, I did take some time and ink them. This one's going to go right on top. And it's kind of hard to explain the shapes here, but it pretty much goes on that first little section there. If you place it right on, or overlay it right on top without actually gluing it, you'll see exactly where it goes. Next, we're going to find this little piece here. It's one of the skinnier, longer shapes. Okay, and at any time, if you feel that you've got too much glue on there, just dab that off. Wipe your finger off so you don't end up getting glue all over the project. You don't want that to come shooting out and blemish this beautiful pine green. There we go. Okay, next we're going to grab this little piece here, and this one is going to go right here like that. And again, just little dots, and then you can kind of spread it around with your finger, or if you want, you can use your glue nozzle to spread it around. I like to just kind of dab it with my finger very lightly, help that glue get onto more of the surface. There we go. Line that up, and again, you might need to give things a little bit of a nudge to get them in the appropriate place. When a piece of paper like this is kind of held together with a thin little area like that, the separate sections tend to kind of have a mind of their own, and they will kind of move around on you a little bit, so you may need to nudge them in place a little bit. All right, so almost done here. We've got this little piece. It's the second largest piece. And again, just hit that with your finger, thin it out. Okay, and this one is going right here. I'm looking at the little area where the two sections meet and curve, and then I'll pop that right into place. If there's ever a shortage of surgeons, and even though I didn't go to medical school, I feel like I've got some pretty steady hands here, so if anyone's looking for an apprentice surgeon, give me a call. And I feel like the more you do this, the more you too could possibly qualify. I'm just kidding, obviously. Okay, so this last one's going to go right here, and just be very careful with it. Just line that up as accurately as you can. Mine was a little off. There we go. Perfect. Get that a little nudge. All right. So there's our beautiful tree. That is, like I said, going to go on the front of our card. Okay, so we can actually take this, and I'm going to put this underneath my mat. Again, let that dry nice and flat for me. In the meantime, let's put together our little caption here. So this is the band that we're going to use to hold the card shut, and this is where our caption is going to go. You'll notice that there's two folds here. Okay, they're pretty close in proximity, so just be careful when folding this. Okay, keep that, make sure you fold that correctly. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take this piece and glue it to the solid white piece. Okay, this is a clever way of doing a caption that has little cutouts that otherwise would make it tedious to piece everything together. It's a clever way of making this whole process easy. So we're going to put that right on top of the solid white piece, and we'll flatten that out. And then we'll take our caption, and there's a lot of details on this, okay? So I'm going to suggest that you do your best to get as much glue as you can around the perimeter. And I'm not saying load it with glue. I'm saying that I need you to cover as much of the perimeter as possible. Okay, and I've got, my glue bottle was not performing there. And then we can always go in, and these little areas that are kind of flimsy and loose, if we happen to miss a few of these little areas, we can always go in and paint a little bit of glue to help them kind of stay in place. But I think I'm going to get it. Regardless, I will show you what I mean. Okay, so very carefully, I'm going to start over here. I'm kind of looking at the left-hand side on those little swirls, and then kind of shifting my gaze to the left, making sure everything is lined up around the perimeter, and then I'll start pressing down on the inside. And I can already tell that I've got some areas that are going to need a little extra TLC, and that's okay. That's expected on a piece like this. Okay, so what I was suggesting was you take a little piece of scrap paper and just throw a little bit of glue right on the corner. And for example, I have this little area here on the Y that I just didn't get enough glue on. Just slip it right into there. There's no glue on the back of this, so you can rub this on the surface without worrying about blemishing anything. You can tuck it right behind these little detailed areas and just apply a little extra glue to help them stick. Okay, and so far I only had 2 little areas that needed it. You can see here on the very end where the C is that I didn't get enough coverage on there. Just slide that in, press it down, and now it is beautiful and nice and sandwiched together. We've got this little area here, done. Okay, so you get the idea there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to glue this to the band. Now I may actually hit this with a little bit of ink. Let's see, what do I got here? I've got a beautiful, this is called Lulu Lavender. I'm going to use that, I think, just to hit this and kind of blend this a little bit more. Now, this is one of those things where, because this element is so fragile, I didn't want to do it before I actually had it down in place. I didn't want to risk ripping anything or destroying anything. And you may not even really notice this too much, but it does help kind of bring it all together and blend it better. It's very subtle. There we go. It's going to look nice. Okay, wonderful. All right, so now I'm going to take this and we're going to glue this onto the actual band. You can see how beautiful that looks. So let's do that. And then we have some little leaves that we're going to put on in just a moment here. And you can adorn those leaves with either some pearls or some rhinestones to simulate little berries. Okay, there we go. And then of course, to close this up, we have this little tab here. We're going to apply some glue onto the tab. I'm going to pull that glue out to the very edge where that first little swirl mark is and just connect it with the other end. You can actually put that down flat as you press that down. Okay, there we go. You'll notice that on each of these separate little leaves, there are a series of score marks, and that's to help you crease these. So what you want to do is just kind of use these 2 fingers to kind of grab it from the side, slightly underneath, and then use your pointer finger to push down to cup that. And then once it starts to cup a little bit, go ahead and just squeeze right at the tip. to create a nice dimensional set of leaves. Okay, and that's going to look wonderful. I also inked that with a little bit of a dark green. And then this is going to go, you'll notice that there are two little nubs here, one on this side, one on this side. These are pretty much the same. And we're just going to put those right there. Put one of them on one side, one on the other nub. So just one little drop of glue right there will do. Just line that up like so. Press that down. And then we've got one more over here. Just one little drop of glue. Don't need a lot. And that's going to go over on the left side. There we go. And don't forget, before you're done, just to take little pearls or some rhinestones and just add 3. You notice there's 2 little half circles there. And then you can put one right between the 2. But that is done and ready to go for later. Okay, what's left here? We've got, well, I think we can get into the bulk of the assembly here. Okay, with that being said, we have these 2 pieces are going to go on the front and back, okay? So we're going to leave those for last because they're going to cover up some of the tabs. And also, we're going to look at the card base here in just a second. So here's our card base, and when you open it up, you'll notice that there are 2 slits. If you have it in the correct orientation, you'll notice there's a little T on the front, and the T is right side up. So if you're looking at it like this, and you don't see a T, or if you do see a T, actually there's a T on both sides. If the T is upside down, flip it over. Okay, so this is the front, this is the back. Let's open it up. And then we're going to need to find these 2 pieces. Okay, these 2 pieces are going to create the base for the inside of the card. And you'll notice that I took and I ran an embossing folder just through the top part, just maybe slightly underneath these little sections here where it's slightly cut off. Okay, and what we're going to do with these is we're going to glue these in place, and you want them to be aligned. For this one, needs to be aligned left, bottom left. Okay, so it should be flush with the bottom, flush with the left, and you'll have an even border going around these 2 sides. And then inside here is a very slight little border, which we do want. Okay, so let's get that in place. If you got this one over here, it's not going to work, obviously, because we want this little notch section to be up against the side. And plus, this little cutout there, it doesn't match up here. So obviously you know which side this one needs to go on, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to build the background, the little scene, first before we get into building the actual pop-up mechanism. Okay, so go ahead and just apply your glue nice and easy onto this piece. And for the one on the left, you want it to be, again, aligned against the bottom right, which should, again, leave you with a nice even border all the way around here and here, and press that down into place. Now, if you emboss like I did, make sure you don't push too hard on any of the embossed areas, as it could potentially undo your embossing. And you don't want to do that. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing with the right side. This one is going to be aligned bottom right, flush bottom, flush with the right on this little notch section, even border here and here. Well, let's get that in place. We're going to build a snowy little scene, add some snowflakes, all kinds of fun Christmassy stuff. Okay, so again, align this bottom right, nice and flush with the bottom, nice and flush with the right, and press that down. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, checking my work here, making sure everything looks good, and it does. Wonderful. Okay, great. All right, moving on. Okay, we're going to start off with these 2 larger panels. The one that has a house is going on the left. The one with nothing is going on the right, okay? And this, again, you want to align this. This should be flush left and bottom, and it should meet pretty much the edge of this little white panel that we have in there. And the rest of the layers are going to be kind of puzzle pieced. And I'll explain that in just a second. Make sure you get a little bit on that house. There we go. And again, focus on getting it aligned, bottom and left. Make sure it's nice and flush. It's pretty important that you get that aligned correctly because the little 3D mechanisms, and it sounds fancy, they're really not that fancy, it's just tiny little pieces of paper, but they are going to rely on these little markers here, okay? And I mean, as long as you're in the ballpark, it'll still work, but you want to try to make sure it's as accurate as possible. Okay, so let's go ahead and I might need to reload this bottle. Let's get the other large blue piece in place. Okay, this one again, getting this one aligned, bottom right. There we go. Just kind of pushing, using my finger to feel that out, just to make sure that it is done accurately. There we go. Okay, beautiful. All right, next layer is going to be this pink layer. Okay, and the pink layer that has a house on it is going on the right. And then this pink layer that doesn't have anything on it, like this, is going to go on the left. Okay, and there's a couple more pieces that are going to there's one more piece that's going to go over here. Hopefully I still have it. That's what happens when you deal with little pieces like that. I'm sure it's around somewhere. Nevertheless, let's go ahead and get this glued into place. And you can see where I did my inking as well. On the blue piece, and then of course on this little violet piece. Okay, just match that up like a little puzzle. All the way down. There we go. Okay. And we'll grab this piece, and you can see it's strategically has a little section there cut out for where that slit goes. We're going to use that to, well, anchor the mechanism to the card. Okay, just make sure this little puzzle piece fits around the house. All right, and as usual, there's always that one little piece that just wants to escape. The rebel. The nonconformist. Okay, this one's going to go right here. You can see there's one little section where the little roof is cut out. That's going to go there. We did it this way just to save on paper. Initially we were going to layer it, but then the card got really thick, and trying to save resources for you guys. Okay, and then on the left hand side we're going to grab this group of trees here and just go easy on the glue. A few dots here and there throughout the trees, like so. And you can see where the roof and the chimney are. I'm going to puzzle that in place. The rest of it should just fall into place, like so. There we go. We've got the beautiful snow falling. Looks great. Okay, then on this side here, we have this little piece, and you can see the right side of the house is sort of cut out of it. So of course that's going to go exactly where it suggests, on the right side of the house, like a little puzzle. So just pop that right in, just like that. And then we have this little guy, this little sliver of a piece. And that's going to go to the left of the house. Nice little tree in the back. Just match that up. There we go. Okay. All right, so that is pretty much, it's pretty much almost it for the background. We do have these two pieces here. Okay. They're going to go right here and right here. And you'll notice that there's a series of little markers. There's two markers here for these little tips. One marker here for the center of the tree, that little branch that sticks out, okay? So you want to make sure you match those all up. and it's going to create sort of like a natural little half circle frame sort of element there at the bottom. Okay, and this piece also contains a marker for the ultimate little mechanism that we're going to put into place. So definitely want to make sure you get that aligned correctly, just like that. Beautiful. And then we'll do the same thing with the other side. And on this side here, we have a marker right here for the middle branch. There's also a marker here for the middle branch on this tree, on the left tree. And then there's one little marker here for this little tip, this small, skinny little guy. Okay, so just be conscious of that as you're putting this in place. Boy, your friends are going to be super impressed with this card when it's done. So rather than just having a flat design element inside of this card, this is actually going to pop out a little bit. It's really cool. Dimension is awesome. There we go. Okay. All right, so that's in place. That's exactly how we want it. It's going to be a wreath over this. You know, that's going to kind of hide some of it a little bit, but for the most part, still be visible. Okay, so while we're in here, we do have some little snowflakes that we can put down just to get them out of the way. And I will lay these out so that you know what we're going to be using here. Okay, so the inside of the card is going to feature these 4 snowflakes. Okay, and I do believe that I did a little bit of inking on these. Now sometimes it shows up nicely, other times it doesn't. Depends on well, how thick I apply it, and also the type of glitter. I'm gonna just hit the very corners of the other snowflakes. I have one that has ink on it, and I'm literally just going to dab the surface of these just to get the tips a little bit of a blue so that there's a little bit of contrast there. Okay, we'll do the same thing on these, and we'll get these in place, and then we can start working on the main feature of the card, which is our beautiful wreath that has our little cardinals on it. Okay, there we go. That's good enough. Okay, so there are also a series of little markers throughout this background, which may be a little more difficult to see once you emboss everything, but I will point everything out here for you. There's a set of markers here for this larger snowflake, and you just want to match that up. I think I got that right. Yep, there we go. That goes right there. Or does it? Yeah, so there's a marker down here for the tip, and then there's another marker for one of the side pieces on the tip. Okay, be careful if you inked that the ink is dry. In my case here, it looks like, I don't know, hopefully I'm not smudging a bunch of blue everywhere. Just be careful. Ink is great. It can also be very unforgiving. There we go. Okay, just being very cautious here, not to spread any ink all over the place. And I noticed that I have one of the little tips of the snowflake that maybe isn't sitting as flat as I'd like it to, in which case we'll just add a little extra glue and press it down. And I'm using the butt end of a pencil here just so that I don't accidentally get glue all over the place. Okay, then down here, where's my little pick-me-up tool? There's little markers here. Again, they're a little less visible now because I did embossing, and that's going to go right down there. So nice and easy with the glue here. on the little snowflakes. And just match that up as accurately as you can. There we go. Okay, I've got a clean finger here. So that's going to go right there. Let's take a look at that. That looks great. Okay, we have a larger one. Okay, and that one's going to go right here. Just take a look at the little markers to help you with the placement. And get that in place. There we go. And again, if you have any of the little points sticking up, you can always take your little scrap piece of paper, paint a little bit of glue right underneath those little areas to help them really get a good hold. There we go. Okay. And finally, we have one more that you can see here on this blue part. There's a few markers there. It's going to go right there. So it's going to kind of overlap and create a transition or kind of a connection between the foreground and the background. Okay, there we go. And use those two markers to your advantage for placement. There we go. Okay, so the foundation or the base of the inside is pretty much done. We're going to start assembling the main pop-up elements here. And there's two layers. Okay, these are the main layers here. And then we have a series of red, and obviously this one here that has the little cardinal is going to go with the wreath portion that has the cardinal. These two are going to go together, and then these two are going to go together. The red is actually going to go behind the brown, and there's a lot of little details on this. Obviously you want to make sure that you're getting the orientation correct, and also before we get started here, there are a series of little score marks right down the center here. Just make sure that you fold that. Okay, and just match up the corresponding segment to the corresponding side. So this one's going to go here, obviously, and we're gluing it from behind. And again, because there are so many little details here, and especially these little branches here, some of these are free flowing. What I found was gluing the main part of it first and leaving these little branches alone is probably the best way of doing it, because then we can paint glue on these little sections individually and get them right in the exact spot they need to be without, you know, being off target, so to speak. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this part here. Whoops, where's my glue? There it is. And we're going to begin, actually, you know what, I'm going to put glue on this. We're going to begin putting glue on this structure here, just on the main part of it. Don't worry about the little branches that stick out. You can go a little bit if you want, but I wouldn't try to cover them up completely. Okay, all the way down here, like so. This is going to go on the back, so just make sure that you get that lined up as accurately as you can on the main structure, just like that. Okay, and again, don't worry about those little individual sections just yet. We'll get to that in a second. Okay, and that looks pretty spot on. I'm pretty happy with that. There we go. Give that a little nudge. There we go. Press that down once you think you've got it. Okay, might have went a little crazy with the glue there in some spots, but that's okay. All right, so as I mentioned, then you can take a scrap piece of paper, throw a little bit of glue right on the very edge of it, and I'm going to just start one little section at a time here. So this little branch, I'll take and just paint a little bit of glue on it, and then just get that one aligned as accurately as possible. There we go. Moving on to the next one, just throw a little bit of glue right on that little branch and just kind of move that red piece a little bit until it's nice and lined up. There we go. You may need to reapply glue occasionally on these little branches. There we go. Or on your scrap piece of paper, I should say. There. Wonderful. And then this one here, you can mostly just do the tips. As long as you get the tip, the rest of it will stay in place. There we go. Moving on to the next one. Lots of little details here. There we go. This one's kind of skinny. So the skinnier they are, the more they tend to move around. Just give that a nudge. Lay it right on top of that red layer and press down. There we go. There we go. And just moving on down. Perfect. We got one little guy left here. And then if the very end of this isn't sitting completely flush, just put a little bit of glue on there and press that down. Okay, so there you go. And that also thickens it up so that it stays nice and sturdy when it's being opened and closed. Okay, so one half of this is done. And then we're going to take the other half and do the same exact thing. And you can see this one's going to go right here, like so. And just like we did the first time, don't worry about applying glue to the extremities there on those branches. We'll get those in place one at a time for the sake of accuracy. Okay. There we go. Wonderful. And just line that up. See, when you have all these little cutouts, such a long little piece, it tends to kind of have a mind of its own. Just do your best to nudge all the little sections into place to make sure that everything is sitting nice and flush. Beautiful. All right, so we'll press that down and then we'll grab our little scrap piece, apply some glue, and we'll go around and get these little individual sections glued down. So literally just sliding that glue right underneath that layer and pressing it down. Now if you can glue all this down in one fell swoop without using this method, then I applaud you, because you must have some sort of mind control over every little bit of paper on this little wreath. There we go. I like to think this is a new level of paper crafting with the Cricut here, the kind of stuff that we're doing. It's not so much just plug and play, copy, paste, or paste and glue. It's a little bit more involved. But as they say, and I've said it before, Rome wasn't built in a day. And if you want to create exciting, extravagant, new things, you're going to have to use some new techniques. There we go. Okay, I've got one more left here. This little guy. I'm using the non-glued portion of this to kind of separate these two sections to help me slide this in a little bit easier. I might have overdone it on the glue there. That's okay. Just rub that off. And there we go. Okay, now as an option, if you want, I would actually put this underneath your mat to help it kind of set nice and straight. Make sure it folds. Okay. Okay, so our back layer is complete. We're going to do roughly the same thing with the front layer. Don't forget to fold in half here at the score mark. Okay, now this time around, I'm going to do the same thing where we glue the bulk of it down minus the little extremities, the little branches at the tail ends, so that we can really pinpoint where they go. Okay, and we do want to put glue on, I'm going to put glue on the little bird as well. Okay, get that covered nicely all the way down, all the little branches out to the very end. And again, don't worry about those little extremities. And I'm going to just focus on making sure that the little slit on the bird is perfectly aligned. Then I'm going to shift my focus to the rest of the perimeter of the bird, making sure that's all lined up, and then the rest of it should just naturally fall into place. Again, focus on the very core of our wreath here. We'll flip it around, make sure that it looks nice and lined up from the front as well. Okay, that looks good. If it's a tad bit off or you see a little bit of that red showing through, don't lose your mind, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Okay, before I work on the little branches, I'm just going to get the other side of this in place as well. Okay, there we go. All right, again, using that little slit as my initial guide for placement. Just kind of focusing on that, and then I'm looking at the tail feathers, the rest of the body, and then up the wreath and down the wreath. That looks good. Let's look at it from the front. I think I did better on that side. Okay, so now we're going to grab our scrap piece of paper and get a good amount of glue on there. Not too much, just enough. And just start pretty much anywhere. I'm going to start right here just above the bird on the right hand side. Paint a little bit of glue behind that branch, line it up with the red part, press it in place. Go to the next one. Just apply a little bit of glue right onto that little branch. And we've got one here. Perfect. Got one there. These, for the most part, they're already in the right spot. Occasionally you're gonna run across an area that might need to be nudged ever so slightly, and that's fine. Like that one there, just needed a little bit of a nudge. Okay, let me get some more glue on here. And we are right about here now. Throw that down. That one's good. Going up here. That looks good. Using the clean end of my little scrap piece to kind of separate the two layers. There we go. This one's kind of long. I'm going to go down as far as I need to. Just make sure I get it all covered. That one is definitely kind of free flowing there. There we go. And then I've got this little area here. Just needs a little extra love. There we go. Let me put that down for a second. Okay, you can press down on your table too if you need to. And almost done. This is probably the most tedious part of the assembly. Once we get through this, we've got all the pieces pretty much ready to go for that final hurrah. Okay, need a little bit there. This guy needs a little bit. So you get the idea here. You can fast forward me at this point. This is kind of a little tedious thing, but I like to show things as many times as possible so you can grasp the concepts more clearly. There we go. Almost there. Beautiful. Yeah, otherwise there's no way in heck you're going to get all this stuff glued down accurately in one fell swoop. It just would be, I mean, you maybe could. I guess it depends on how rigid and how thick your paper is. This is 80-pound AC cardstock, and I mean, it's a really good paper, but because the details are so thin, they tend to kind of have a mind of their own. Okay, so we have both layers here ready to go. Now we're not going to put the birds in place just yet. Those are going to go on after because we have a series of little tabs that we need to assemble and connect, and that's actually what we're going to do next. So you're going to need to get these guys here, these guys here. There's a total of 4 mechanisms. Okay, I'll move this out of the way. You have 2 with an R, 2 with an L, 2 green and 2 white. Might be a different color depending on how you situate it or how you're going about doing yours. But let's take a look at the one that says R. There's 2 sets of score marks on there. And what we're going to do is fold at the score marks, and then that little rectangle that's in the middle of the 2 folds, we're going to actually glue this back to back to the other one. Okay, so we're going to put these back to back so that you can see the R's on both sides. You can kind of hold it like this. Okay, and we're actually going to put glue on just the middle rectangle. So let me move this out of the way. And then we're going to sandwich these back to back. So you just want glue on the rectangle part in the center right now. But you can lay this down flat to make sure that it is accurately glued down. Okay, I'll show you what I mean here in a second. These 2 angles here should meet. This is kind of funky right here. I'll explain why later. But right now we're just gluing the 2 center rectangles together. These 2 tabs should not be glued together, and then these should also flare out. Okay, so you've got a flare there, these flare, and just the center is connected. Okay, and I'll explain how all that works in a second. Let's do the one that says L next. Same thing, it's just got a larger tab on one side. Okay, we want to sort of isolate that middle rectangle on both of these. Okay, and what we want to do is put these back to back so that you can hold it at these 2 tabs here. So the 2 rectangles on both of these are side by side, and these pieces are going to be random. That's fine. Okay, so let's move this out of the way, and we want to join these 2 rectangles together so that they're literally right on top of each other. You can do this flat. This should be flush here. This should actually be completely mirrored from this point where the rectangle is down to this tab. Again, not gluing this part together, nor are we gluing this part together. Just the center rectangles. Okay, so we've got that one ready. And now, same thing's going to apply here. These are a lot smaller, obviously. And what you'll notice is they're essentially that middle part with the 2 little nubs. Pretend that that's the little rectangle that we just did on these 2 pieces. It's basically the same thing. It's going to serve the same purpose. And what you want to do is you want to line these up back to back like so. This one should have, in my case, it has an X on it. The other one has nothing on it. The 2 with an X need to go back to back. Okay, so we're not gluing these sections together, and we're not gluing these tabs together. Just the middle section with what looks like a little tic-tac connected to it is going to get glued together. We're going to sandwich them back to back. So again, just putting glue on the little rectangle with the little tic-tac on there. And then again, you can then glue this down and hold it flat like this, just making sure those little tic-tacs are glued together, but not the little tab here and not the little tab here. So just that center part in between the 2 folds. Okay, so we're going to end up with something like this. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with this piece that does not have any marks on it. It has score marks, but this one has the little X at the tip. This one does not. And again, just put them back to back. I've got my texture side out. I can fold these out, and then we can fold these out at the fold. And we're only putting glue on the little rectangle with the tic-tac on it. Okay, so just glue those two sections together, sandwich them together, and you can put it flat on itself, just like we've done. But again, no glue on the tab beyond that little marker, and no glue on this. Just that middle part with the little tic tac. And we're going to end up with a mechanism like this. Okay, I'm just going to show it in all the various angles. Okay, all right, so that's that. Okay, so it's time now to assemble and put in the actual moving parts of this thing. Okay, now keep in mind that we have two cardinals. The cardinal on the right is going to be higher. The cardinal on the left is going to be lower. Okay, so you can see here how this folds. Okay, and the slit here is higher. That corresponds to this. Okay, so actually it may be helpful just to lay this out. You can see how these slits line up. Okay, I'll put this off to the side for a second. Same with this wreath. There is a slit here and there's a slit here. You want to make sure that you have it in the correct orientation. Okay, so what I just did there was I showed you that the slits, even though they work like this is incorrect, because if you look at where the center is, the center of this is not centered with the card. So we know we need to rotate this. Okay, we need to rotate it, flip it upside down, and then check again, match it up with the slits. There's the slit, and now you can see that it is perfectly centered here. Okay. Okay, so just make sure that you have the two wreaths in the correct orientation. And what we're going to do next is actually take and we're going to glue the mechanism to the back of the top wreath. Okay, the wreath with the cardinals is our top wreath. Okay, it's going to be layered like this. So this is top, this is bottom. And we're going to actually flip this over. Okay, and we're going to grab these two pieces here, okay, and you'll notice that on one side it's really skinny, and on the other side it's thick. Okay, so these skinny sides here, these where I'm pointing to right now, are actually going to be glued to the card base. Okay, the other side is going to get glued to the back of the front wreath. Okay, the white one, in my case, is going at the top. The green one is going at the bottom. Okay, and what we want to do here is flare out the larger end of the tabs, and they should, and they will, line up with the actual wreath. You should see that, and you may have to flip it around. You'll see that it actually fits right within the confines of the wreath. And the middle of this should be in the middle of where these two sections meet. Okay, it should be pretty perfect actually. Okay, so you'll notice that these little tabs, they kind of contour to the shape of the wreath on both sides. Okay, so you can see here I'm just putting this larger section down onto the wreath like so. Okay, so go ahead and lift this up and apply glue to these two larger tabs. And you can kind of flatten them out a little bit. And then go ahead and glue that right to the back of the top section of the wreath. And again, make sure that it is in fact right in the center. And just press that down and hold it. Like so. Okay, there you go. And now for this one, same concept applies. What we're going to do is take this and figure out whether it's this way or this way, depending on the contour of the wreath. It looks like I'm going this way to match the actual shape of the wreath. Again, making sure we have it nice and centered. And that is exactly where it's going to go, like that. Okay. So let's go ahead and apply some glue to these two little sections, like so. And we'll pop that right on there. Make sure it's right on that wreath, nice and centered. Okay, let's fold it. Well, not yet, actually. Let that set first. And then we'll give it a test fold here in just a second. Okay, you should be able to fold this closed, and those should stay right on the wreath. Okay, just like that. Okay, next we're going to take this top part and we're going to flip it over. And let's grab this piece that has a little L on it. What we're going to do is we're going to take these tabs. Again, these are not glued together, just that little rectangular part is. You're going to slide it through the little slit. And as you can see, this matches up perfectly with the shape of the bird. Okay, so what we can do here is flip one end over, apply some glue right to that, and then go ahead and glue it down onto the actual bird itself, like so. And then we'll go over here, flip this side over, apply some glue to this tab, and pop that in place. It should completely match the contour of the bird. If anything, it'll be inside a little bit, and that's fine too. Okay, perfect. Then we'll take this little piece here that says R. We're going to slide that through, and you can see that that fits the contour of this bird. You can fold that tab over, apply some glue, pop it back onto the actual bird itself. Make sure it matches up. We'll fold this over, apply some glue, pop it right onto the surface. Okay, so now our top wreath has all of the mechanisms necessary to make this thing work. Now finally, what we're going to do, this wreath here, we're going to take this wreath and I want to make sure that we have the orientation correct, meaning that, well, we already had it set up. Let's double check real quick. This slit should match up here, this slit should match up here, and the center should be centered with the card, and it is. Okay, so that is correct. This would be incorrect if you flip it around. This is correct. We're going to take and slide these tabs, all 4 sections of the mechanism, through the back wreath. We're not actually going to glue this to the card. It's going to be free floating. So take and slide all of the little mechanisms through. In the center of the card there, you'll have little holes for the small ones, and then we have the large slits for the large ones. Okay, so now we have the 2 layers in place, and all the mechanisms pointing through are pulling through. Okay, so we have the 2 layers connected, all 4 of the mechanisms poking through. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this nice and easy for you. Just pay close attention. You're going to take the little mechanisms on the left side, and we're going to poke those through this little slit. We're not going to glue anything just yet. Okay, so we have it through on the left-hand side, and you want to spread these tabs apart and just kind of hold them with your finger, okay? And just to test it out, actually before we do anything else, put the other tabs in through the slit on the right. And because of all the layering, I want you to very gently and slowly, let me get that through. Okay, so I've got it through on both sides, like that. I want you to very gently, very slowly start to kind of fold it in. It may seem like it's going to bulge a little bit. That's okay. Just very slowly, go ahead and close it, and just make sure that everything closes properly. Okay, that's step 1. And there we go. Okay, so it opens and closes and maintains its dimensionality. And we still have another step we need to do in just a second. But now that we've done that and tested it and make sure that it opens and closes, let's pull out the mechanism on the right-hand side. And what we're going to do, you'll see here we have the little nub here from the top mechanism, and right next to it here you see 2 little lines. Okay, we need to glue that to those 2 lines, and I'm actually going to put this down flat on my surface, and then you'll notice here at the bottom this green one that we created should be right between 2 additional lines right here on this little evergreen feature. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go ahead and apply glue to these little mechanisms, both on the bottom and top, and then press that down into place. Just make sure that the card maintains in the center. Okay, and now while it's still kind of drying, go ahead and pop that through this little slit here, spread it apart on the back, and let's make sure that it closes, and it does. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to let those dry, and once we close it, actually, you can kind of push on it a little bit to help it. Okay, and that looks like, looking at it from under here, it's in place. So now we're going to keep the right side in place, and we're going to take out this one. We haven't glued this down yet, it's just in there. We'll put that back, and then you see the other two tabs on this side and this side, and then we're going to glue those down. Okay, so go ahead and apply your glue to the tiny green and the tiny white tabs, a little part of the mechanism, and go ahead and pop that into place between those two little lines there. Okay, now while it's doing that, go ahead and slide these guys right through again. Spread them out, keep everything nice and flat on both sides as far as these tabs go, and just make sure that it closes. And it does. Okay, so essentially what's happening is these mechanisms in the center are keeping everything in place, allowing for this to close, and then when you open it, it maintains the dimensionality. Okay, so now all that's left to do, you can actually go ahead and close this up, and we'll flip one of these tabs over, apply some glue to that side, press it up against the actual back of the card, flip that one over, push that down, and hold that in place. It's going to anchor everything for us. We'll flip it over to the front, do the same thing, apply a little bit of glue there, press that down, flip that one over, apply a little glue there, press that down, and there we go. Okay, and the more you open and close it, the more you'll sort of train it. Okay, just be gentle with it. And then finally, just need to put our beautiful little birds in place here, right on top, like so. So let's do that. Go ahead and apply your glue to our beautiful cardinals. And this one's going to go right here, hiding that mechanism. There we go. Press that down into place. And the other one. How do you like that? All right, this is gorgeous. Okay, just match that up. I'm focusing mostly on the head, the body, and the tail. Okay, and get those feet in place too. You can kind of push on this. It should be pretty sturdy at this point. Okay. And there is your beautiful completed card. Everything closes and opens correctly. Beautiful dimension. And now it's just a matter of finishing this off with the front and back. Okay, this is going to be the front, this little section that has all the little markers on it. That's going to go right in the center, nice even border all the way around. And that's going to help us with the alignment of the little Christmas tree, as well as all the additional little snowflakes. So go ahead and apply your glue to this, nice and easy. We don't want to warp the paper or have any of that glue show through. So go ahead and pop that right in the front. Now notice on this piece that I'm putting down right now, there is a little T on it. The T should be right side up, indicating that you have it in the correct orientation. If the T is upside down, you're going to want to flip that over. Okay, I'm going to put this down flat. That is a beautiful, beautiful card. And make sure that in my video I highlight just how dimensional it is. Okay. All right, and then on the back, this piece does not have any markers on it, so it doesn't really matter which orientation, up or upside down. Nothing's going to be upside down on this one. It's symmetrical and it doesn't really matter. Okay, let's get this one on. Nice even border all the way around. Okay, and then we can put this down flat and press from the inside so we don't mess with our beautiful cardinals. Okay, there we go. Well, this has got to be the most beautiful and probably one of the more sophisticated cards that we've done. Okay, there we go. And you can see how when you open it up, how dimensional that looks. Okay. All right, so now it's just a matter of putting the little tree in place as well as the little snowflakes. Now you can see here, there's a marker here, and when placed correctly, it hides the letter T. Okay, so we need to glue that down. It's a little bit of a thicker card, but that's okay. It was, we tried to make it as thin as possible while maintaining the interactive elements. Okay, I guess I didn't really do a lot of blabbing during this one because I wanted to make sure that we did it correctly. So sorry that you didn't get a lot of story time today. That's okay. There we go, pop that little tree right on there. And we just have some snowflakes to put down. You can put that down flat and push from the inside again, just to avoid destroying the little mechanism there. There we go, okay. And as I mentioned here, we have a series of little snowflakes. I can do those off camera, and just show you where they go. Okay, so just quickly here, I'll show you where everything goes. This little guy is gonna go here. I'm gonna glue that down there. There's two snowflakes, actually there's three, sorry. 3 snowflakes shaped like that. 2 are the same exact size. Okay, one of them is going to go here. Use those little markers to help you with the positioning. I don't want to bore you with this since I've glued a ton of snowflakes already today, and I'm sure you guys are snowflaked out. Okay, this little guy is going to go here. And we have a tiny little guy that's going to go right here. And this last little guy is going to go right here. Okay, so we're just gonna glue those in place. Again, use the little markers as your guides. That's where those are gonna go. Okay, and then this is just, I was using that as a reference. Of course, we have this. Once you have the snowflakes on there, you're gonna use this to kind of add your little sentiment and hold it closed since it is a rather thick card. Let's get that around there. And I would position it roughly about there, I'd say. Okay, and then of course, no card would be complete without an envelope, which we've also included. And we're going to put that together real quick here. This is the solid scoreline version of it. I'm going to bring these 2 flaps in, and we're going to apply glue to the inside perimeter here, like that, like that. And then lift this up, press it down. And just hold that for a moment. Okay. And then we're going to take this guy, and this is going to go right in here. You can see how it adds that little touch to the flap. And what I want to do here is apply glue around this little design. And I think it's time for a new glue bottle. Done a lot of gluing today. Okay. And work some of that glue out to the perimeter. And then we're going to take this piece and line it up, right up to the score mark. Make sure it's centered. And then you can literally just bring this piece down and press down to get that all aligned. And then we have one more little snowflake that's going to go right on here, and I probably put it with a bunch of other snowflakes that I was test cutting. So let me make sure I have the right one here. I believe it's this fella. I think it's a bigger one. There he is. Okay, and that's just going to get glued down right there. And that's going to do it. So again, don't forget to put your final little snowflakes on the front of your card to finish it up. And that's going to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please visit us on our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. While you're there, hit the little bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new product, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I'd love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where you'll find myself and over 43,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So thanks again for hanging with me, and as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where you'll find over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly tutorials. I'll see you in the craft room.